Well, okay, let's go to round four.
That's right.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Cool. Right. I'm just going to keep moving down the line here. So
So you're
uh,
going to do the Wyeth one or the other one?
I think the next one is let's see, I think it's called Winter Interlude. So this one doesn't require an image. It's just
Okay.
yeah. It's a tune that was written, or I should say, a poem that was written. Based, it was my kind of last gig when I was teaching public school, and I would long drives back and forth and to work, and just painting something in the wintertime, just something to do in the car without keeping the radio off, try not to be distracted. Winter interlude. There is this beauty in the woods, displayed on bronze and amber leaves that wait to fall all winter long. They seem to sing the longest song. They rarely move, and like a blade of grass that lies above the snow, they have no other place to go, and let the throes of winter pass. With ties nothing can sense but time, ineffable, like space between two strings, like silence undefined, a kind of music in the mind that doesn't end, is always played, is present when new lives are made, continues breathing, pulses, thrums, a tune the cosmos knows and hums.
Wow.
So it has a little bit of a musical quality to it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And it goes to something very specific. I'm not sure I've encountered the idea of, I know the last leaf. I've used that in a song lyric, like the last leaf that falls from a tree is like as a symbol of loneliness. But leaves that wait all through the winter and don't fall.
Right.
That's an interesting image. And you what you do with it is fascinating because you go from this very particular image into you open all the way out to the cosmos.
Well,
And I love that nod to the music of the spheres, a tune the cosmos knows. That's a beautiful, and of course, so many folks say that music is given to them, it doesn't come from them, but through them. And so
Yeah,
I like the way that's acknowledged as well. It's beautiful.
yeah, and also the the use of the two strings, makes it,
mm,
for me it brings, it says a lot without saying very much.
mhm,
All you have is two strings, but the space between two strings, like silence undefined, a kind of music in the mind that doesn't end, and then you keep spooling. So it's the strings are vibrating and everything comes out of it.
mhm.
And it makes me think of string theory also, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
theoretical physics
Right.
current.
Yeah. There are some, I guess, harmonics, or there's some vibrations that are happening between strings that I guess, even if they're not plucked, I think they're still making something, that there's a sound quality, if something, a sympathetic vibration, I guess you might want to call it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well there are Greek instruments that are based on um, the harmonics of the wind blowing across strings.
Yeah. Right. Beautiful. Yeah.
Ancient Greek instruments. I forget the name.
Sure.
Um, yeah, the whole idea of whether music is the music of the spheres is one way to think about it. I remember reading a news note once that on the island of Crete there are bees that hum uh,
Mm.
in harmony.
Oh, beautiful. I'd love to hear that recording. I'd love to hear. That's
There's
I've
actually
excellent.
a
never heard
story.
it. I read it.
Is that right? Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
There's a story in today's New York Times about singing mice and the changes in their brain that may enable them to develop language, or maybe the parallel between the way they sing and communicate and listen to each other patiently till one finishes and the other replies, and how that change in their brain may have, it may cast light on language development in human beings. That's in today's New York Times.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. So much we don't know, or still discovering.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I had a question. When I use the word beauty in the first line, do you think I could use another word for that? Because beauty has more of a visual sense to it, visual image, and yet the poem tends toward a sound sense as opposed to a sight sense. I don't know if beauty works there or if maybe another word instead. I'm not
I
sure.
like the idea of using another word, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
dare to
Yeah,
direct you.
well, anyway, if you can think of something else, or because I was struck by the beauty of what I was saying, but then it kind of led
It's
me
10
toward.
o'clock.
Sorry about the, but it
I
does.
guess my question to you would be, because I'm more interested in getting you to think of it,
Yeah.
would be what is it that you actually mean?
Right. So yeah, well,
Just think about what
work
you
on that.
say.
Right.
What is it that's displayed on bronze and amber leaves that wait to fall all winter long?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's
That's what it is. There's something there, and it like Frost would say, he likes to use the word something, or he likes to say what it's not, and then you start to
yeah.
try, have to guess what it
Well,
might be.
my favorite use by Frost of the word something
Yeah.
is um, uh, a piece, a pebble. Is it a pebble of quartz? He's looking in a well, and the surface
Yeah.
of the water keeps moving, but
Yes.
sometimes it settles, and he can see. He thinks all the way to the bottom of the well,
Mm.
and um, and at the end of the poem, he says, what was it? A pebble of quartz? Truth, a pebble of quartz? For once, then, something.
Yeah. Right. I remember that poem. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, something.
Truth, a
Right.
pebble of quartz?
Then something. I think Pat. Do you guys know a poem or a poet named Pat Fargnoli? Do you remember Pat?
No, I don't know that name.
She was a New Hampshire poet laureate, and she died a few years ago. But the title of her poem, or title of one of her books is "Then Something," and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's after that poem.
Oh, I bet.
She was she loved Frost, and she wasn't necessarily a formalist, but she loved the beautiful language, the language that the evocative ideas that he
Well, you
had.
can steal a lot from him separate from the
Sure.
meter.
Right.
I mean,
You don't have to be a formalist. You're exactly right.
Yeah, it's not all just about his meter. But yeah, I would say, well, I think they seem to sing the longest song. Maybe there's a clue there
Okay.
for what would take the place of beauty.
All right.
What is it? What quality does it take to want to sing as long as possible or longer
Sure.
than anything else? I don't want to answer the question, but you see where I'm pointing.
Yeah. Thanks for the clues.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Wow. Okay,
Thank you.
sir.
Didn't mean to turn it into a workshop. But thanks. Thanks.
No harm, no foul. Like I'm like I say, I don't. Not because I couldn't, but not even because I shouldn't. But
You're doing the right thing, Alfie.
you know the Marlene Dietrich song. Not because I wouldn't, not because I couldn't, but simply because I'm the laziest gal in town.
All right. It sounds like her.
That's great. Anyway, I'm sorry, Ned. Number 4.
Yeah, you asked me to read this one, Al, to be sure that I didn't like let it go. So
Yeah, please do.
uh, I'm going to read a little bit of the note. This is called Redemptions in Stained Glass. I'll read the title again in a minute.
Yeah.
The stanza derives from George Herbert's poem, The Windows, and this is about stained glass windows. And it's also about my birth father. I think I'm not going to go into my whole adoption saga, which a lot of folks that know some of my books might already know and be tired of. But I do want to mention I was surprised to find his stained glass projects online. He is died not too long ago, and we have not been in contact for many, many years. He was a businessman and ran an auto glass and auto radiator business. So it was interesting that he turned to the creation of glass art late in his life, which I thought was touching, even if I wasn't in contact with him. So the stanza derives from George Herbert's The Windows, and just mentioning my sister and I are a year apart in age to conceal the scandal that our birth parents were not yet married to each other. We were raised in separate households under assumed names, and our younger brothers, who were mentioned perhaps in passing here, were born after the marriage had taken place. Okay, so if you know that much, this is Redemptions in Stained Glass on Discovering My Birth Father's Projects online. Father who raised my brothers, father known as scarcely kin, father who summoned fortune from hardship, but forfeited the son and daughter who, like contraband, would bear a false name and pretend. Father we viewed resigned from separate houses, father whose glass works shook with noise and smelled of solder, father of troubled causes, cruel to hired men, whose voice resolved or silenced any choice, father who now works calmly in stained glass, pendant of waterfowl in flight, adorning a picture window. Father who'll pass long hours grinding shapes that light will touch to color and ignite. Father whose lamplit dragonflies, lead edged, are glazed in gold, whose sunlit door weaves peacock feathers, petals his vision salvaged into iridescence. Father who's finally had his fill of power, perhaps, tracing new patterns on a light box, handling glass with gloved hands, clearing shards away with care, peering past flecks of paint and flux on goggles, fearing nothing, whole days disappearing into the moment, far from memory. Father whose past, not spoken of, may surface still when memory starts to stray, whose pain was always keen enough, the same father my brothers love.
Hmm. Boy, there's a lot here.
So strong, so powerful. I love the way you read it. It was so good.
Thanks.
Mm.
I mean, there's so many levels to talk about. Let me just get the technical ones out of the way first. Um, you've got alternating dactyls and iambs. That must have been intentional because it's all the way through. You know, I mean, the rhythm, bum, 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 bum. It's this kind of a rolling rhythm, but it isn't. It's not strictly dactylic, but neither is it iambic. But it's got its own flavor, and you keep it up through the through. You know, it's a pretty long exercise at keeping up that kind of a, a complex rhythm. And then you've also married it uh, to a stanza pattern and a rhyme scheme that's
Mhm.
unusual
Right out
too.
of George Herbert, so you can thank him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it works
uh,
well. It really works well.
it does, but it can't have been easy to do.
Yeah.
Um, so what about the rhythm? Is that something that you did purposely because it's got such a strong swing to it, you know, and it is so consistent.
I think that when I write poems that have dactyls or trochees kind of dominating the rhythm, unless I'm very conscious of saying I'm working with a very particular meter, I'm probably more focused on listening, and I'm probably, when I'm thinking about how to edit, probably more focused on number of strong accents per line. So I think that the conscious part did not go into I am using dactyls and trochees, but just the word father takes you in that direction, and then your ear leads you. And I was very conscious of the rhyme scheme, and I was very
Yeah,
conscious of the number of strong stresses per line since they vary. And the metrical music was born really out of listening, I would say. I was more conscious of making sure the rhymes worked as well as I could make them work, and that I was keeping to the right number of stresses as I moved.
yeah. I mean, you're going from six stresses to five, right? I mean, from four.
Father whose lamplit dragon flies lead edged. I would count that as five. Are glazed in gold whose sunlit door. I count it as five and four, but
Five
there
and
are
four.
extra unaccented syllables that are part of what you noticed when you talked about dactyls.
Yeah.
So, but I'm thinking of it five and four. But I'm not
Okay.
trying to say what it is because I've had experiences where I will say that, and someone will say, "No, but you're wrong. It's not that." Well, it is that. My creation of the poem
Yeah.
took that path, and I know what it was when I was creating it. But I also know that sometimes meter is loose, as it was for Frost, who often wrote in a loose iambic pentameter that wasn't
Sure.
iambic.
Yep.
So here I'm thinking like father whose lamplit dragon flies, lead edged, father who's now works calmly in stained glass. I mean, of course, stained glass is a spondee,
Yeah.
but
There's
all
Suspandi.
that aside, it was really for me in listening was a 5/4 pattern.
Okay. I mean, what that tells me is that consciously, I mean, you were creating rhythm deeper at a level deeper than what you were attending to. You
Right.
know.
I'm listening. I mean, I think ultimately,
Yeah.
we all do that. I mean, workshops are helpful, and I'm taught for many years, as you know, for decades. And, one of the things that you teach is when you're not sure what to do, when you're trying to craft a poem, you learn about meter, you learn about rhyme, you learn about different feet. You learn, but then of course, there's a great book by Ellen Bryant Voigt, The Art of Syntax, a rhythm of thought, rhythm of song, which is
Yeah.
not so much about writing in meter, but writing with the rhythm of syntax, which, I know some folks that write strictly in free verse will often compare to jazz. And of course, no one knows more about jazz among the three of us than you, Al. And I would just tend to think that, rhythm takes many forms, and there are rhythms between the freedom of a jazzy syntax in free verse and, a more strictly metrical. Um,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
so yeah,
Well,
so
yeah,
just just getting through the poem and listening.
yeah. I mean, you listen to Dylan Thomas read poem in October.
Yeah,
That's so strong rhythmically, but it isn't metric.
right.
Mm, mm.
I mean,
I haven't
there
looked
is
at the
that.
meter in a number of years, but I know the poem and love it. Dylan Thomas was a big influence in my adolescent years, and I still
Yeah,
love it.
Mm.
yeah. He was for me too, but eventually I got to where it bothered me that I didn't really understand what he was
Well,
saying.
I think Randall Jarrell said that he was the exterior of a great poet, but that the problem with his work was the thought beneath it, and sometimes the lack of thought or the lack of clarity. Um,
Yeah.
but uh, but just listening to his work, it's magnificent. I mean, Alter Wise by Owl Light,
Yes.
makes hardly any sense at all, but it's
Yes.
pretty amazing to listen to.
Yeah. The knock of the sailing boats on the net webbed wall.
Yeah,
I was in a production of Under
beautiful.
Milkwood when I was in boarding school,
Hmm.
and so I was inoculated early. There's some grand stuff in that. So well, anyway, that's just on the technical level. I mean, there's lots to talk about here, but Bob was right to point out first, emotionally, what's going on here is, I mean, I didn't know that he came to the working in stained glass after a lifetime in not in art but in business. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a working class guy. He was a working class guy with a difficult childhood, um, and uh, and in his adult life was a very successful Long Island businessman in the automotive business, which is a cutthroat business that is merciless and where strength and power and is what comes first, uh, and weakness and is not tolerated, where the arts are only valuable if they bring in money, and anything is only valuable if it brings in money. So, but people are always more than just one side of themselves. That's what he needed to do. He has a lot of drive. He had a lot of drive. And that's what he needed to do to lift himself from poverty and a bad childhood to the success that he had. And then also to transcend the difficulties that he and my birth mother had in two of us being given away before they married. And that was partly done because there was another child who was her child by a different man whom she didn't want to lose custody of. So I'll leave it at that because the family story is too complicated for discussion. It's better to be read. And of course, David M. Katz is such a sweetheart and a really great guy,
Yep.
as a wonderful poet. And he
Oh
has a
yeah.
nice piece on my family poems on his web page, which I think was originally published in Birmingham Poetry Review as a review of a couple of my books. So,
I'll have
that's
to look for that because I read his webpage, but not all
yeah.
the time.
Yeah, check it out. It makes a lot more sense than me trying to explain things because one of the burdens of this kind of history is it's too complicated for people to understand or follow.
Yeah.
And it sort of becomes a blur of information that kind of just washes over folks. So I just wanted to confine it to, yeah, this is my poem about my birth father.
Okay, then let's go on to my fourth offering, which is also family related, but it's definitely a different family context, and also I'm quite small in this poem. It's called "The Battle Is Rejoined," and this is about my grandfather and the house that my grandparents lived in Haverhill, Massachusetts, at 119 High Street. Place was a tenement, and my folks and I lived on the second floor. My grandparents lived on the first floor, and we were there until I was 5, and then we moved to the park where the rest of my childhood was spent. But this is still in the urban, densely urban part of Haverhill. The battle is rejoined. As I turned at the corner of the house, I heard my Nundu cursing in the yard. Though I was only 6, I was allowed to roam back there, where I would be protected. The tenement on one side, the red brick firehouse with its single hook and ladder on the other, and the fence in front to keep me from the sidewalk and the street. The yard was safe, but hungering for green in this gray, treeless city neighborhood, my Nunnu had turned the backyard plot into a miniature old country garden. Snap beans, zucchini, and tomato plants tied to wooden sticks with butcher's string had sprung up at his feet in narrow rows. I went up to him, stepping carefully. Sleeves rolled, brow creased with sweat, he leaned against his wooden-handled hoe. A handkerchief with knots tied in the corners kept his scalp from blistering in the remorseless sun. The oaths were leaping from his throat, and though I couldn't understand his dialect, his mood was unmistakable. Somehow From half a world away, his nemesis had traveled an assassin's secret path from old soil to the new, concealed by night its drooping ears and razor-edged incisors, and nibbled on his ripening tomatoes.
How dare he? Jeez, man.
Now, Al, I really enjoyed that when I read it. I took it to mean that the curses were much out of proportion to the rabbit or other small creature that did the nibbling. That it was because I obviously I've seen Italian folks get very angry in my life and raised by a carmine, and
Yes.
sometimes the temper flares and you're like it seems like it's an assassin when it's some small thing. Did I take that the right way?
Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, the thing to keep in mind is both things are true.
Yeah.
It's true that it's just some nibbling on the tomatoes, but on the other hand, it's the tomatoes.
That's right. It's very important. I agree.
The thing that makes it fun for me is that in his mind, it was the same rabbits that had nibbled his tomatoes in Sicily.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow it came over on a boat and found him.
Now, that was the other question I had. Did he really think that because he's getting older or perhaps a little scattered mentally? Or is it just that I took it to be not that he was just sort of like really angry and it kind of felt that way to him?
It's 10:30.
Well, neither.
Okay.
It's his belief system was there, these are the forces of malice arrayed against you.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is opera. Everything is life and death.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he comes all the way to America, and he comes to a place where there isn't even a tree. And he makes what he can, life in the middle of in this little.
Yeah.
I actually went back to my hometown last month, and I drove by that house just to see how big the yard was. As I remembered it, it wasn't very big. Yeah. It's no longer a yard. It's now a 2-car parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's only as wide as 2 cars side by side.
Tiny.
It might be 20 feet. Yeah. I mean, 30 feet. Not even 30 feet. But I can just see him standing there with, those plants were precious. And
yeah.
So it was like, yeah, it's everything is dramatic. Everything is over the top. But on the other hand, that's because everything is important.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. There was no boredom in my childhood. I was brought up around people for whom boredom was a word that they couldn't even envision. It had no meaning. So no, he partook. I said this in the last. It's funny. I said this in the last show. He saw the world very much like the jungle, the rainforest natives in Peter Matheson's novel. These missionaries go to South America. The name of it will come to me if I tell the story. And they're trying to convert these Indians that live in the rainforest that they've never been successfully contacted because they won't come out of the jungle. And so you live and so this missionary and his wife and their son go into the jungle, and they move right where these people are, but they never see them. And then after a while, the son falls ill with malaria and he dies. And the natives come out of the jungle, and they come to the couple, and I guess they're able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, tell us the name of your enemy and we will kill him for you. And the missionary says, I don't understand. I don't have an enemy. And they say, but your son is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Who killed him?
Right.
They say, oh, nobody killed him. He died of a disease. They say, but who sent the disease?
Right.
And they say, well, nobody sent the disease. It was carried on a mosquito, and the mosquito, bit him, and then he got ill and died. And the natives go, yes, but who sent the mosquito?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So that's the mindset. It's an old world. I mean, it's a primitive mindset, I guess, but it's the forces. There are no accidents.
Right.
Everything is sent for a purpose by someone or something that is out there to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it is. It's the little bunny is an agent of, doom. That little bunny is the crack in the world that's letting the dark in. So
Monty Python understood that, right?
was that movie called The Mission? Do you know, or no? Was
what
it called
movie?
The story that you were trying to describe in South America? What was the story?
No,
called?
it wasn't The Mission. It was at Play in the Fields of the Lord.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. I very much enjoyed that novel, but that scene really stayed with me because it's such a perfect illustration of this mindset. It's a kind of a magical mindset. But he partook of it. He absolutely did. And so that's I couldn't tell you what he was actually even saying, but I thought I knew him well enough to know he felt bedeviled, literally. For him, it was the devil was real for him.
Sure.
So,
do you know where he got the name Nanu, or is it just a nickname? Or
Nanu that's your grandfather.
It is.
Nanu and Nana.
Is that
that's
okay?
Sicilian.
Cool. Very good.
That's the Sicilian,
the version of Italian for grandfather.
Yeah, it's the Sicilian version of the Italian way of saying it. Cool. It's like see you for uncles, but yeah, I never learned the dialect, but I heard it a lot. So, okay, that I wasn't going to go on that long about my family either, Ned, but so I guess it's last round.
Okay.
Last round.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, Bob, I ought to know what's left.
No worries, yeah. So if there is an image that goes with this, if you'd like to.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Great.
I do.
Sure.
I do. Let me share it.
Okay.
This is a great Wyeth.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a great Wyeth.
Yes. So, yeah. Anyway, this is this.
Can you see all of it? Well, let me move it.
Sure.
Okay. Can you see it all now?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a little small now, though.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
Really?
but maybe it's just on my browser, so don't make any changes for me. It's just because the border of gray is like widened as well. And so that's like made the picture smaller. But maybe that's not something that can be fixed. That's getting better. That's good. Now, if there was a way to get rid of the gray on the right side, but there may not be. So
well, I'm going to lose some of the left part of the image.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think that's vivid enough for us to sort of, connect to Bob's poem.
Okay. So go ahead then, Bob.
Okay, cool. So anyway, this I think I first saw this painting in the Brandywine, and it was up on the third floor.
I love that museum, by the way, just before you get going.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
Go ahead.
Anyway, just a little backstory. My mom was a docent. She worked there after she had retired in older years, and anyway, so my mom. This is dedicated to my mother, who used to work as a docent at the Brandywine, and it's inspired by this painting by Andrew Wyeth. It's called Snow Hill. It's also the name of the painting. When Mom retires, she offers guided tours at Brandywine and Chad's Ford, lifts her voice to gather guests before a canvas, steers their eyes to help them see an artist's choice of colors, shade, the movement of young men in uniform, the angle of a flag. She shares an artist's story, details when and where they did their work, reveals the bag of tricks an artist keeps until he cares to make his secrets known. She leads the group through NC's room, through Jamie's, then upstairs on Andrew's floor. She makes a scheduled loop to look at landscapes, portraits of a friend named Adam, Alan at a chestnut stand. She shows a work with elements that blend a reverence for the land and hand in hand the artist's friends seen swinging round a pole in admiration of the day, the snow, their lives, the artist's family as a whole up on a hill. The friends spin round with no concern for wintry weather, no concern for crops left on a field and gone to seed. Like something in a dream, the dead return and celebrate the fate of being freed. She pivots right, points to a railroad laid along the valley eastward near Route 1. She tells how NC and his grandson made a trip to fetch a worker, but their run was cut short at the crossing when a train took both their lives in 1945. She offers, after questions, how the pain of loss re-energized the son to strive for excellence. She offers what she knows of Chad's Ford, of the creek that flows from here to the Delaware. She bids farewell, then goes downstairs and waits again to volunteer.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I love how you've got all the layers there. There's, there's your mom, there's the telling of the history, there's the scene of the inspiration for the painting, and then the painting itself. I think that's a really tough thing to do, to get all those layers in there and get them to work together so well.
Anyway, I'd first been inspired by I'd been up to the Farnsworth, which is up in Rockland, and when I visited there the first time, they had this documentary of Andrew, and it was a sort of a looking back at his life, and the name of the documentary was called Snow Hill, and so they told his story and his upbringing and him and his relationship with his father and so on, and I think that was probably when I first got the idea that maybe I'd like to explore. It reminded me when I was younger, we lived in that area there, and I was really taken by, of course, his ability to, I don't know, be so connected to the land, and then of course he started to paint all of these different people that he knew and so on, but it just seemed to me as though what was important to him mostly was his appreciation for the land and how the land spoke to him, where he'd lived and where he'd grew up and so on. And so kind of, I don't know, just kind of went from there. And I knew that it made me feel nostalgic because my mom used to work there. And so I started to just flip a coin and say, okay, what do I do? How can I? And so I just thought maybe I'd just give people a tour of the museum as if my mom was there, and then also try to take into account the elements of these figures here, where these were important, models for Andrew, and then they wind up in this painting toward the end of his life, as if they've come back to life.
That's really
powerful.
Yeah,
the layers that Ned mentions. You just added another one by talking about what motivated you to tell the story of your mother, telling the story of the Wyeths, and also going further into their story at the point of the accident, which, if you know and you even explained that the accident had a profound impact on Andrew.
Yeah.
The thing that I love the museum, as I blurted out before you started the poem. I love going to that museum And part of what I'm struck by is that, of course, I grew up seeing N.C. Wyeth uh, illustrations in books.
Mm.
And of course, they're always book size. But when you go to the museum, they're murals. They take a whole wall.
Right.
So you see a whole wall of Long John Silver.
Mm.
It's so I was struck by that, and just as you say, that's on the ground, on the ground floor. But when you go up to, up to the Andrew floor, and then as I read more and more about Andrew, and I came to understand that he was simultaneously representing in what appears to be a realistic manner both actual reality and symbolic reality layered on top of one another, that
Yes.
he was somehow doing both at the same time. And this painting is a great example because I think we understand that there wasn't actually a moment when these
No.
people were alive and danced around this pole, but he's created this, this image that is symbolic and realistic. And and then when you actually see his that feeling is only intensified by seeing the work up close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It isn't just a picture of something. So there's a message to me. There's a mystery and a message in Wyeth that's central to to what he's all about. And you in this poem you drill down through the personality of the speaker, through the personality of the mother who is like carrying this, carrying the story, carrying the tale, being the prophetess, you know, making the connection to the audience that does not know. She's the adept, and then we end up in the image itself. Um, there's just so much going on. I mean, this is uh,
Well,
yeah. I just love what you've done because of the specific thing you chose to have her talking about.
I
Of
appreciate.
course, that's what she actually did.
Yep. I appreciate you saying something about the mystery of his work, because there is a lot of that,
Yeah,
and I think that's what actually draws people to his work. And maybe and maybe his relatives too. Maybe his dad. Maybe I know his dad was in some ways jealous of the talent of his son, and even though he was probably the best illustrator of his day, except for
yes.
maybe might be a couple of other exceptions, but he was definitely the best known and probably the best of his day. But he had so many. He was so insecure. He was insecure. I mean, you never believe that the guy with his such an extrovert, but he was really insecure, and he felt, I think, as though he wished that he could do what his son was capable of doing.
He didn't
But
think that what he was doing was great art, right?
he thought of himself as an illustrator, even though he did enter some of his artwork into into exhibits, important exhibits in Philadelphia, and maybe other competitions and so on. And occasionally he won, and he was trying to reassure himself that he was also talented, but he didn't win, sometimes, and that was not, he was always a winner. But when he found that he could not, or he came short, that was troubling for him. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
I mean, one can only imagine what it would be like to be the father
yeah, well,
of really an artist that deep.
yeah. But he was great, but he was also he and Andrew, I think, they eventually had before, it was the year, maybe the year before his father passed, that they had a heart-to-heart talk, and they shared each other's respect for each other. especially
Yeah.
Andrew for his dad. But I think Andrew went a different direction because his dad was trying to uh, bottle him, and Andrew didn't want to be bottled. Uh,
Yep.
he was interested in being who he was and what spoke to him, and so he had to step away to rebel. And
Well,
his father never preached it, but yeah,
this is fathers and sons. It's biblical and more,
right, right, yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a little bit of a recurring theme, although we haven't dwelled on it. But
yeah,
we were certainly into it in your poem, Ned.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway, yeah.
you know, at odds. Um,
Anyway,
well, um,
yeah.
what will be your
Thanks,
final
thanks,
say, sir?
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for that. Thanks for that, Bob. I mean, I'll
No worries. Yeah,
afterwards. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story about Wyeth afterwards.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I am. I thought when you said, I hope you were talking to me when you said, "What's my final say?" This is my final say. Um, and I'm going to actually read a poem that's been in a way resurrected. It was a poem called "A Spell for Lamentation and Renewal." It was in an anthology put together a few years ago. Oh,
Uh-huh.
I'll put it in front of my face. Is it getting clear?
Yep.
Attached to the living world. I can read it.
There you go. And
Very
put
good.
together by Ann Fisher Worth and Laura Gray Street. It's a great anthology, many fine poets in it. I'm very, happy to be part of it. And but the poem originally came out a few years ago on the New York Encounter website, where it got some recognition. And Ecotone, the journal, is helping to publicize the anthology and some of the folks in it. So this poem's actually going to be in the forthcoming Ecotone, a fine journal that Annalena Phillips Bell, a wonderful poet many of us know,
Sure.
edits, and at least and of course some other folks like uh, 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 I can think of one of them, Michelle Donahue, was actually a student of mine at the Iowa State MFA program not too long ago. Although that she wasn't part of the process of accepting the poem, it was nice to know that she was there and in contact with me about it when it was being set up for print. In any case, this is a poem that's written with words excised from abridged Oxford dictionaries. And these are nature words. And this was much in the media a few years ago because the idea was that, look, these words are part of the world that we live in, the things of the world, the animals, the trees, the living things. And although it is the abridged Oxford Dictionary, it is, new terminology and new slang, and that's, words for those things. It's crowding out the words for the natural world, which so many of us are forgetting or maybe
Ah,
never learning in the first place. So the tragedy of that was very much in the news, and that's that's really the main inspiration for the poem. So there are two columns. They can also be read across from each other. No fancy things being done by the reader today, but if you see it in Ecotone, you can like read across or down. A spell for lamentation and renewal. First column is lamentation. For the quiet of the hazel, for the seed inside the acorn, for the fading of the bluebell, for the shadow of the fern, for the turning of the adder, the wing beat of the cinnet, for the tumbling of the otter, for the torn limb of the newt, for the wavering of willow, for the gathering of wrens, for the grasp of mistletoe, for the hazel's dangling catkins, for the dandelion's nectar, for the kingfisher's blue flash, for the cowslip's common hour, for the clearings marked by ash, for the brittle skin of beech tree, for the empty miles of pasture, for the steep ascent of ivy, for the silence of the future. And the next column is renewal. In the quiet of the hazel, in the blazing of the bluebell, in the acorn's buried secret, in the fossil print of fern, in the shedding of the adder, in the splashing of the otter, in the calm sleep of the cinnet, in the smooth skin of the newt, in the long stride of the heron, in the hazel's wealth of catkins, in the shelter of the willow, in the clasp of mistletoe, in the cowslip's golden hour, in its cluster and its nectar, in the kingfisher's brief flash over clearings, over ash, in the vellum of the beech tree, in the timeless arc of ivy, in the burgeoning of pasture, in the promise of the future.
Mm, mm. That's amazing. I love that. Love that poem. I love the question and answer, or it reminds me of the glass half empty, glass half full. You know, or almost. There's this juxtaposition of almost like, some people, you say that they're sort of like angelic, and they always see the glass half full. Or they always see the beauty, or the upside of something. And then there's someone else that's going along as the pessimist, and they see in front of them the torn limb of the newt, and this is what actually kind of governs their life. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, both things in
Probably
there.
lean more toward the lamentation column, but I felt that the second and final column should be the renewal column for the reasons that you state.
well,
Absolutely.
it's
So
nice that you read that second as opposed to going renewal then lamentation, right?
yeah,
Right.
I agree.
War is
So
important.
so explain to me about the words that you used, and you're
Well, the
saying they
word,
were excised from the Shorter Oxford Dictionary.
yeah,
So
yeah,
which
again,
words?
easy to Google. This is like maybe 3 or 4 years old, much in the media. And they put together a new abridged Oxford dictionary, and they took the words out. I mean, it is the abridged dictionary. So it's about the choice of what to abridge. I mean, it's not going to have as much as the full,
Right.
Oxford English Dictionary that's, probably mostly accessed online now, but once filled our shelves, or there were those 2 volumes with the magnifying glass that many of us had in grad school or college back in the day. But it's the abridged version, not the full version. But the question is, what are you abridging and why? And what you're abridging in the pattern was the things of the natural world, things that we're forgetting, things that, the environment is losing, because of habitat loss and overbuilding things. I mean, the cicadas are habitats disappearing because, they go underground and then someone puts a parking lot on top of it and they can't come up. So yeah, and so the words are the the vegetation and the animals that are mentioned.
So all what I'm trying to understand is most of the words that you use describe living things that are known to me. Are they no longer? I mean,
In the
newt.
abridged
There are
Oxford
no
Dictionary,
newts.
the lists at the time, I can't speak to it now because I didn't write the poem yesterday. As I say, it had a new life because of coming out in Ecotone. But when
Sure.
I wrote the poem, I was consulting articles on the words that had been excised from this
Wow.
dictionary. So if
Wow.
I trust my past self to have been accurate and laborious, then the living things here are those things that were left out of the abridged dictionary.
Well, I'm just trying to determine the depth
Yeah,
to which I should be shocked, and
yeah.
I'm shocked.
I'm going to open
Wow.
another window and see if I can, maybe find a link for you. Maybe I'll put it in a chat.
Mhm. Cool.
Sure. No,
You
no.
guys please carry on.
I, I understand what you're saying. It was just hard for me to believe.
Oh, I know. That's why I want to see if I can find it because it's horrifying when you see it.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
see.
that's. I mean, it was disturbing. They wouldn't have had to excise words that common for it to still be disturbing that they'd excise words somewhat less common, but ones that are that common, it's just
I'm going to upset you even more. I'm going to upset you even more because what's come up first, an article more than 11 years old, is why Oxford dictionaries are right to purge nature from the dictionary. So this is actually from an even earlier issue. I guess this actually started to happen in 2007, but it's only in I guess 2015, 2016 that this started to sort of come out, and it later was in a book as well. But I'm looking at the deletions, which Robert McFarland, the author, wrote about: acorn adder, ash beech, bluebell, buttercup, catkin. So a lot of those very things, it looks like I was accurate. The article's by Martin Robbins, and
Good
I'm going to see if I
Lord.
can put this in a chat for you. And the worst part of it is that the person writing the article is why Oxford dictionaries are right to purge nature from the dictionary.
Well,
That's not the only article on it, and not the one I consulted. But isn't that
well,
creepy sort of
not
see?
only that, not only that, but the companion article in which they list the words that have been put into the dictionary to replace the ones that are being taken out would also cause me a pang.
Of course.
Yeah,
Now this says meeting group chat, so I guess this will go to everybody,
that's okay.
Yes,
and so you can look it up later, and anyone else perhaps.
Okay.
very
There's
good.
the
I see
article I
it.
just found now.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, that's an extraordinary poem about a regrettably extraordinary reality.
Yeah, very
Wow.
troubling.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, I don't have to ask you why you wrote that one.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was very angry, and one thing that I guess the only thing I'd say about it to add that might make it slightly more interesting to, fellow poets and creators is that it was a process of moving things around to see what seemed to sound best in the right order. So
Yeah.
sound definitely dominated and guided the order in which things appear.
Makes
Well,
sense.
one of the things that you do in the poem is you show the the power of these orphaned words
Yes,
by revivifying them. I mean, because you're showing them
It's 11
working
o'clock.
in these different ways, and all the more to show how wrong it is to deny them. To neuter them, to negate them. Um, well, I wish everybody read that poem. At least
I
it's
wish I wish poems could persuade.
yes, that's also true.
Well, I think sometimes they can.
I think I always view myself as kind of carrying on despite the fact that it won't work. So there's that pessimist that you mentioned earlier, but I do think it's necessary to do it anyway, to say it anyway.
I would agree with you totally. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for what that's worth, in faculty meetings as an English teacher, I used to, or in department meetings, I used to remind them that we would be talking about how we kept teaching the same grammar year after year after year, and yet no one ever learned it. I mean, we taught it in the seventh grade, the eighth grade, the ninth grade. They still never learned it. And I said, well, we got to keep in mind we're fighting a rear guard action.
Yeah,
But there's a reason to fight rear guard actions, even though
I
they're
think that's
doomed.
true.
So we're all doing it in our own way. So, well, that's a happy prospect. Um, well, unfortunately, my last poem kind of dwells on the same thing.
Oh
Not,
no, you mean you're not going to
not,
leave
not
us with a cheerful, smiley poem to make us feel affirmed?
well, not unless we take heart.
Let's take
But
heart then.
yeah, well, this one is called "What Must Be Done."
I like this poem. It's a good one.
Thank you. It's got an experiment in it,
Yeah.
but it harkens back to what I was asking Ned about with his uh, dactyls, or are they dactyls, or could we call them dactyls? Anyway, what must be done? How can the storm be raging now and yet somehow still threatening? The promise an even higher bent is being sent to trouble us, is sapping our energy tonight and dimming the light we'll see tomorrow. Nothing is coming to me, to you, and little to do that calms us here, deep in the pit where our resolve simply dissolves and leaves us deeper. Seeing how all around us darkens, scoring a mark in every heart, feeling that everything is sinking, leaving you thinking that all is lost. Expecting the worst becomes familiar, only to fill your heart with dread. What must be done in times like these, when all our pleas may go unanswered? Nothing for us but to oppose the void that grows beneath our struggle. Or we'll no longer be you, be me. Nothing to be, but closer, stronger.
Well, I think that is an affirming poem. I mean, to oppose the void is a thing we all must do. So I think that is inspiring, Al.
Mhm.
Well,
And did you hear
uh,
that tune in the background?
yes,
Someone's
yes,
grandfather clock struck. It
Sure,
was
yeah.
perfect,
Good timing, yeah.
perfectly
yeah.
timed.
Grandfather clock strikes to the truth. Well, yeah, no, you're right. There is nothing to be but closer and stronger, but then we have to do it. And so it's the whole rest of the poem points out how it's not easy.
Right.
Um, but I intentionally read it with the dactylic feel to it because I was consciously guided
Mhm.
by the alternation of dactyls and sometimes iambs, but always with the rolling to keep the rolling in mind. And then what did you both think of the displacement of the rhymes from the end of a line to the middle of the following line in the couplets?
I like that. I like the sound of it. I think I saw it in many occasions, like in the last couplet, um, there's longer and then stronger at the end, and I liked oppose and grows and these and please. I liked that. It seemed to me as though I'm not sure if there is
It's in every couplet.
so yeah, I enjoyed it. I made a note of it when I
And
was.
there's a couple of those Tim Steele mosaic constructions. Uh, uh, where's
I
oh,
like the sound of those internal rhymes as well. I really feel like they made the poem seem whole, gave it a kind of sonic integrity.
good. Thank you, because I wanted to do something that didn't have a rhyme. I got the first two lines came to me, and I thought, well, that's funny. The rhyme is kind of displaced. I wonder if I could do that all the way through.
Yeah, just keep going.
And,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
so that's why I did. So again, is it a nonce form as much as yours was? Maybe somebody else has done it, but maybe somebody else has done it. He said,
I,
employing his rhythm.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
I like.
it's
I don't know what you would call it, but I like it.
The trick,
yeah. I don't.
Al, is to write more with the same form and then to name it after yourself.
Oh Lord! Nobody actually names a form after himself, do they? Isn't it proper for someone else to do it?
You could call it an alpharism, maybe. Yeah, with an AL.
Oh, gee, I hope not.
Hmm.
Well, anyway, it was so it was experimental, but it worked for me. I mean, it I liked the swing of it, and it did seem to give it some cohesion. Um, and yeah, so darkens, markin. There's your mosaic construction.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar, filiar. So actually, what
Well,
Tim calls a mosaic construction, I would refer to song lyric writing because there are lyricists that have used this kind of thing in songs. That's kind of where I got it from, I think.
yeah, like George Gershwin, he's or I should say, Ari
Yeah,
Gershwin would use clever word smithing like this. Yeah.
As you can
yeah.
see, I've gotten out my copy of Tim Steele's All the Funds and How You Say a Thing to make sure that I've not misled you on terminology. And the term I was quoting was mosaic rhyme, is how I remembered it. I'm going to look it up here and see if I can
It's the
find it.
moment of truth, folks.
Moment of truth.
He's risking it all.
Oh,
Well,
here we go.
I like this. I like the
Here we
sound. I mean,
go.
you have me
Modern
convinced.
English morphology. Maybe it's under rhyme.
You were very convincing. So I mean,
I try to
I've
be
drunk
convincing.
I'm
I've
convinced.
drunk the Kool-Aid. Now don't tell me I got to give it back.
No, I don't believe so. Well, let me just say, we're all here, and I'm sure folks, are getting ready to go off and have a drink by now, if they're not already like half snookered. So check out Tim's book, and if Ned is wrong, then please write to Ned, and
Very good.
but don't write to Tim. I wouldn't want him to know.
No, no, no.
He's a fine writer and a great critic.
That's for sure. And a good guy. Well, this has been great. We went a good, healthy, long time, and there's nothing wrong with that. And covered a lot of ground. Had some old things, some new things.
That's right.
There's some what I always like to say. There should be some blood on the floor. There was definitely some heart's blood on the floor. Uh,
Yep.
I'm
A couple
I'm
of
I'm a happy fellow, well satisfied.
Oh, here we go. AI says a mosaic rhyme is the rhyming between two or more monosyllabic words in a single word that is longer than the former ones.
So you got it. Yeah, so you're
That's
correct.
essentially what you
But the
said.
thing is,
Yeah.
AI told us that.
Well,
The greatest
right.
authority that exists.
Well, maybe.
I'm saying that ironically.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, it probably learned it from somebody that knew.
I agree. I agree.
So I choose to balance my tenuous trust on that.
We can
We'll
only
see.
hope. Well, it's been great seeing you guys and talking with you and reading with you and getting to know you a little bit better, Bob, than just a face on Facebook.
No, it's an
Yeah.
honor to
Great to
meet
hear
you
your
and to
poems.
listen to-
Really enjoyed them.
Yeah, likewise.
Al, always a fan. I know that Sully is waiting for me because although you may not have been audible to you, he's been outside in the hallway saying mew, mew, mew.
Oh
And
my.
he's just a little guy. And a somewhat bigger being, my wife, is also waiting for me. And so
Well, I think you should
I'm
answer
going
the
to-
call.
I'm going to say so long and thank you to
Yes.
everyone. And
thank you.
looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Good.
Whether it's on screen, hopefully in life. There's my little leave icon. Thanks again. It's
Thanks,
been
man.
really
Yeah,
fun.
thank you.
As it always
Thanks
is.
very much.
Great to
And
meet you, Bob.
Good to meet you
Thanks
too.
again,
Thank you.
Al. Bye-bye.